What's up everybody, welcome back on my channel, Danny FYR, Find Your Reason. I'm Danny B, aka Stan, aka whatever that you wanna call me. I've been enjoying the Mr. Ball shorts videos, so I'm gonna do another one of them today. I mean, Mr. Ball has got a full channel where he's got some brilliant stories on there. If you've ever heard of the 411 disappearances in America in the mountains, people just disappearing and then suddenly reappearing in places that there couldn't possibly be. Things like that. There's stories like that all over his channel. So shout out to Mr. Ball and go over, subscribe to his channel. But more importantly, subscribe to my channel. At this moment in time I have 3 subscribers and I'm grateful for every 3 of them subscribers, and I'm grateful for every view that I do get. I know it's heartbreaking in the YouTube game at the beginning, but I'm going to still grinding because I enjoy doing it, to be honest. I really do enjoy doing it. It gives me a talking point, and some videos on YouTube are just crazy, so why not document how I feel about them. So with all that said anyway, let's get into this Mr. Ball one. This one's titled Secret Creepy Cabin Discovered in North Carolina. So let's see what this is. This story about Larry Davenport was originally paired with another story about a boy named Michael who went missing 8 days prior in the same location, Rowan Mountain, North Carolina. Michael and his family asked us to remove the video, so that's why you are hearing Larry's story now as a weird standalone story. Okay, we've got that. Let's carry on.
On July 17th, 1983, 8 days after Michael is found, another person goes missing in the same section of Roan Mountain. And I've got to say, their story sounds an awful lot like Michael's. So on July 17th, 1983, Larry Davenport, who is a 20-year-old avid hiker, decides to head up to Roan Mountain with a couple of his friends to go on a hike. They really liked the western side of Roan Mountain. They were very eager to get up to the top where they could have a picnic before the sun went down.
I can imagine, and the things I've seen on TV and everything of the mountains in America, they are absolutely stunning and beautiful, and they are, and I can see why people would want to be around that beauty. But I mean, for me, there's too many stories of like people just go missing and never to be found again, man. And you've got to look after yourself. You know, you've got to be smart about these things. So yeah.
So they make it up to this section of the mountain where it's actually a campsite, and it's not that far from where Michael went missing. And there's picnic tables and there's little barbecues. You can put in charcoal briquettes and have your own little barbecue. They get up there and they set up their picnic on one of the picnic tables. And they're having a great time, they're joking, they're laughing, and at some point Larry takes off his shirt and his shoes. And the weather was pretty good. It wasn't super hot out, but it was decent enough that no one thought it was odd that he was taking off his clothes and maybe kicking back and relaxing, enjoying the nice weather. Then at some point, out of nowhere, he stands up and he starts walking over to the tree line because they were in a bit of a clearing. And as he's walking over, one of his friends would later say that it seemed odd if he was going to relieve himself in the tree line, that he wouldn't take his shoes. Because the risk of stepping on something and puncturing your foot's pretty high. It was only in retrospect that this friend thought of that. At the time, his friends didn't think twice. He's getting up to relieve himself. He'll be back in a minute. After a few moments, when Larry did not come back, somebody turned around to see what he was doing. And they saw him walking in a straight line away from them, well into the forest. This is a thick forest. It's not somewhere you're going to go walking barefoot without a shirt on. And he is way into the woods at this point. The friends have this moment of shock. Even if he needed to relieve himself, he would have done it much closer to the edge. So they're staring at him, thinking like, this isn't really happening. He's gonna turn around and come back. When he didn't, somebody yelled like, hey Larry, what are you doing? Doesn't turn around, just keeps walking. So they get up and they start walking over. They're yelling to him, expecting him to turn around. And then at some point, he's far enough away that they can't even see him anymore.
That's hard. Why would you just pick up and leave like that, no shoes on, no shirt on, and then to just walk off into a forest? I mean, I don't know. If you've been out in that environment for so long, can delirium set in, because it's just the same. After a while, the scenery will get the same, So I don't know. Would delirium set in? Maybe not. Take it back there. Up and they start walking over. They're yelling to him, expecting him to turn around. And then at some point, he's far enough away that they can't even see him anymore. So they start running into the forest, yelling for him to stop and to come back. But as they got farther and farther in and they couldn't find him, they began to get worried that they were going to get lost. And so they decide, after about an hour of just yelling for him and kind of peering around to hopefully get a look at him, thinking he might just come back because there was no explanation for this, they eventually called the authorities. Authorities are able to very quickly launch a massive search in this area, very similar to the search that was launched for Michael, except without military involvement. But it was just as many people, hundreds of people, scouring this area. He doesn't have shoes on, he doesn't have a shirt on. And so they're banking on the idea that even though he's walked off for some reason, he can't go very far. It's going to take a minute, but they're going to find him because he can't escape the search party. But he does. And after 3 days of not finding this guy, despite this massive effort, people are baffled. But on the third day, a very strange but lucky break in the case occurred. 8 miles away from where the search is happening for Larry, a group of hikers called into police that they had seen a man walking around them wearing only what they described as a bed sheet. He was probably not wearing a shirt. They didn't know if he had pants on or not, but they could see that, his shin down had nothing on it, and he had no shoes on, and he had this bed sheet wrapped around him. And he wasn't coming towards them. He wasn't threatening them in any way. He just looked like there's something wrong with this guy. Somebody needs to collect this guy and see what's going on. And so the police go over, and sure enough, it's Larry. When police got to Larry, he was visibly shaken, confused. He didn't really even know why he was there. He didn't know why he had this bed sheet wrapped around him, which it would turn out to be a large curtain, not a bed sheet. He did have a few scratches on his body, but probably not as many as they anticipated him having, considering the distance he had covered. 8 miles through thick rhododendron thickets. He should have been covered head to toe in cuts, but he wasn't. He had a few. So the first thing they did is they brought him to a hospital, and he was diagnosed with something called acute brain syndrome, which is a term that refers to a host of psychiatric conditions that are temporary and diffuse over time, that are caused by head injury, drugs, or infection. Basically, he was totally mentally unstable, but it would get better over time. Once he stabilized a bit, investigators asked him, what happened? So Larry wasn't sure why he left his friends, but at some point after leaving his friends, he wound up at this abandoned cabin. And he describes the cabin, and he says where it is, and he said he went in the cabin and he didn't have clothes on, so he pulled one of the curtains off one of the windows and he wrapped it around himself, and he was there for a bit before ultimately leaving the cabin, and then he was discovered. And so investigators, they had a bunch of issues with this, because number one, how do we account for you traveling 8 miles? Because what you've just described is not an 8-mile journey. You're talking about a very short journey. In addition, where you described this cabin is an area that was heavily searched by the hundreds of people that did the search. And no one saw a cabin. And certainly if they had,
they would have searched the cabin. It is the most obvious place that someone lost in the woods would go. There's no cabins in that area. So where was he? And where did he get the curtain from? And so just like the Michael Reel case, where the boy is found and he's healthy, and so everyone looks past the weirdness of his discovery and his story because he's alive, that's what happened to Larry Davenport. Very strange story. Don't know what you're doing walking around with a curtain on you, and I don't think that cabin exists, but you're alive, so we're okay with it. No one really did much research into the weirdness around these two stories. But David Paulides and the Missing 411 team said it's pretty difficult to overlook the fact that in a very short period of time, two different people that didn't know each other, that were not interacting in any way, went missing in roughly the same area, Roan Mountain, North Carolina side, under the same circumstances. They suddenly got up and walked away inexplicably. There's no trace of them. Dogs can't pick up their scent. Then they show up and they were kind of confused about how they got there, but here they are. And then they describe the same cabin that they found themselves being drawn to and staying inside of for significant amounts of time.
That's very strange.
That seems like too much of a coincidence to just write off. So, I would like to hear what you think happened to these two people. Was the cabin a hallucination? And if so, how did they both evade such a massive search effort? Or was it real? And who was the person in the cabin with Michael? So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's video, let us know in the comments what it is.
Yeah, so that was that story from Mr. Ballin today. I don't know what you all think about it, but for me, I couldn't tell you names of mountains in America because I'm not that clued up on it. I know you've got the Appalachians and what is it? Is it the Black Forest? And I might even be wrong on that. I'm not sure. I really don't know. What I do know and what I've seen of them, and the stories I've heard about the 411 missing cases. Yeah, I don't think you'd find me hiking through those forests. Although my dream trip is to go to America. I would be staying in your cities, so I know. Well, I know I'm at least just not gonna disappear and vanish into thin air. But like you said at the end there about that David Paulides, those 411 cases, he's a writer. He goes all over America, compiling these lists of how many people have gone missing and how many have been found in places where they really shouldn't have been able to get to. I mean, even little kids wandering off with no shoes on and then getting found like 2 days later 20 miles away on a mountain where there's no way the puzzle could have possibly gotten to. But some people, I mean, it can go into sort of strange territory. Some people believe it could be like sort of portals within them forests for some reason, with it being sacred and Native American, you know, it could. I mean, I haven't got the answers for it, I haven't, but I do really find those cases interesting. So if you like that video, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, and obviously go over subscribe to Mr. Ballin because he is great, he is really good. So that's me out. I'm Danny B, aka Stan, aka whatever that you want to call me, and I'll see you next time. Peace.